When Melanie Hempe's oldest son dropped out of college due to a video game addiction, she used her nursing background to focus on the science behind childhood screen addiction in order to create a better environment for her younger children who were still at home. Instead of removing all screens, she removed the most toxic ones: video games, social media, and pornography through the critical adolescent years. I met Melanie at a conference recently, and I was absolutely blown away by the work that she's doing to help parents just like me make sure that our kids do not become addicted to screens, whether it's social media or video games. She has a powerful story. She is going to empower you to be a better parent. This is probably going to go down as one of my favorite episodes in the history of the Heidi St. John podcast. I hope you'll share it with your friends. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Well, hey, everybody, how are you doing? Listen, we are post-election day here, and I'm going to turn our attention right now, before I do an analysis of the election or anything like that, I want to turn our attention to a completely different topic because I get questions about this all the time. Mothers will write into me and say that their kids are addicted to video games or they're struggling with their self-image because of social media. It doesn't matter what it is, Instagram, TikTok, any of the platforms that are out there right now. Most of the young people I don't think are on Facebook anymore. But Melanie's going to make a very strong case for why you should not let your children and your teenagers have smartphones or play video games. I know a lot of you are struggling with this topic right now, and I'm struggling too, to be honest with you guys. I'm at the very tail end of raising 7 children, and I'm kind of tired, and I told Melanie that. And I think it's okay to be tired, and it's also okay to go back to your kids and say, hey, we made a mistake. We're going to go a different direction. You guys are going to love this conversation. It's a little bit longer than the ones I normally do, but I think it's so powerful and so empowering, and I cannot wait for you to hear this interview. So, Melanie, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Heidi. Thank you.
Well, it's really, I am fascinated by this topic, and I've touched on it a few times over the years here at the podcast, and we get questions from parents all the time who are struggling with their kids with screen addictions, whether it's social media, which is ruining our daughter's self-esteem, or video games, which is taking children really away from their parents. And when I heard you talk about this the first time, I was so moved by your passion, and you're passionate about this because it's touched you in a very personal manner. How did you get involved in this issue?
So, Heidi, I am a nurse, first of all, a registered nurse, and, spent years at Emory and doing all the nursing things. And then we had 4 children. And, things are very different from when you're in nursing and then you come home and it's like, oh my goodness, all these things are happening right under my house. And you have to figure it out. It's not exactly like just going to the hospital every day and fixing everybody's problems there. So, because you think, and the reason why I say that is because you just would think that I would have seen this coming, right? So my oldest son was very addicted to his video games all through middle school and high school, and I had no idea. And like many of your listeners out there and many parents that I talk to, it sneaks up on you and you don't know the warning signs, and all of a sudden you're thinking, what's happened to my kid? Like, I've lost him, but we live in this culture where everybody tells us this is okay. So, but he was dropping out of baseball and dropping out of piano, and he was more and more spending more time. I was the gaming cop mom. And if you can relate to that, it is a terrible job. It is a job that you get when no one tells you. It's one of those mom jobs, I guess, that you didn't know you signed up for.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like I was setting the kitchen timer all the time. I was the bad guy, and I hated that, but I couldn't figure out, why was Adam choosing all of this time on his screen over being with us? It was like, Adam, could you come upstairs for dinner? Could you come upstairs for your sister's birthday? How about, could you come open your Christmas presents? It was this pull that I didn't understand. But he was really smart, because Heidi, this is one of the biggest misses that I made, was he had straight A's. So as parents, we grade ourselves on our kids' grades, right? So if their grades are fine, then they must be fine. And so that's number one. That was my big miss early on. Secondly, I really missed this problem with him not attaching well to our family. And he was my first. So you're not sure what this preteen and teenage thing is supposed to look like exactly. But I kept asking my friends, isn't there something wrong? Like, shouldn't he be wanting to hang out with us more? And they're like, no, he's fine. And I remember very distinctly some of my friends saying, Melanie, at least it's only video games, right? At least he's not out getting drunk or, worse. And I thought, wait a minute, that bar is so low. Is this really what we're doing? We're setting the bar that low, so this is what he's supposed to do. And it got to be a lot of conflict, Heidi. And so I'm very sensitive to people that are even listening today that are living in this right now, whether it's video game addiction, whether it's smartphone addiction. There is such a high level of conflict in your home over maybe your spouse is saying, hey, when I get home, he better not be on that game. Or, you're just bickering back and forth. And there was just this pull all the time. And so I can't even explain, unless we have a whole nother show about how to explain what the conflict's like, because that's a whole nother thing. But the conflict got pretty high. And then we had 3 younger kids, and my twins are the youngest boys. And so my hands were full. But I just remember so distinctly thinking, when he goes to college, we're all going to breathe the sigh of relief. Quite frankly, we need the conflict out of our house right now. And we loved Adam, and he was a great kid, but we kind of argued about the screen thing all the time. And, I never even thought, oh my gosh, I should just take it away. Like, that never even crossed my mind, and here I had my nursing background, and I thought, you can't be addicted to a screen. That's ridiculous. Like, I didn't understand it. And so he went to college. We picked him up after that first year. And Heidi, it was just the worst nightmare, but then it was also super good because there was a lot of clarity at the same time. So how when you discover something that's really bad, but then at least you're glad you discovered it, because now you can start to fix it. So we're driving home, and I asked the dreaded question that every parent dreads. Adam, are you on drugs? He looked like he was on drugs. When we picked him up from his dorm, everything that we had left at Christmas literally was in the exact same spot. The kid had not, gotten out of his room. And so he told me, Mom, I'm not on drugs. That game did something to me. I've been in bed for a week. I haven't eaten. I haven't gone to classes. I'm done. I'm dropping out. And we were just devastated. And
he's dropping out of college now.
Oh, he dropped out.
Yeah.
He dropped out of college because of his video game. And he was playing World of Warcraft at the time, which is a highly addictive game. And it was at that moment, really, on the highway driving home, that I just had the whole moment where it was clear. It was like, this child is chemically addicted to this video game. And so I got home, hit the ground running. I started calling all my neuroscientist friends, and I started going to all these conferences. I'm like, who knew? I had no idea that a gamer or a kid on a screen could have a chemical addiction to that device. And so I started talking to the neuroscientists. They started showing me the MRIs. They're like, oh yeah, we know this. This is what happens to a kid's brain when they're on a screen. And the limbic area is all revved up, and the frontal cortex is shutting down. And the dopamine level is so high, Heidi. It is so high. It's right up there with alcohol and drugs. So it is a chemical addiction. This is what had happened to Adam. And I was learning all this, and then I was in a dilemma because I had a gamer now, college age, 19 years old, sitting on my sofa. And this is where a lot of your audience and audiences everywhere are right now. Yep. They have kids that we call them boomerang kids. They come home or they never launch. And here he was, classic, sitting on my sofa with the hoodie, because, gamers are cold all the time because they're not moving and their blood isn't moving. And he's sitting there, and I didn't know what to do with him, but I did what turned out to be the very best thing, and that was to give him 14 weeks digital detox, and it was called Basic Training in the Army. US Army.
We're in the Army now.
That's right. And I'm kind of laughing because, Heidi, this is so funny. I called the military.
Cold turkey.
It was cold turkey. And I didn't know what to do. And I called a guy, and I said, sir, he came to the door, the recruiter, and I said, sir, you have got to recruit my son. He loves to play Call of Duty, and you need to recruit him to another Call of Duty. I literally said...
He loves to play Call of Duty.
Yeah. I said
and you need to recruit him to another Call of Duty. Dude.
He needs a different duty. And, listen, I think I wasn't the first one, because this recruiter came in. He sat at the kitchen table. He said, yes, ma'am, I've got it. And he recruited Adam, bless his heart. And so he went into the Army for 5 years, and
5 years.
and
Okay.
he went to Iraq, and he did all the things. And you know what? He found his purpose, and mostly he got that detox.
Yeah.
And all my friends then were saying, Melanie, what in the world? How could you do that? And I said, oh no, you don't understand. He's
Yeah.
much safer there
Yeah.
than he is, because when you have an adult sitting on your sofa playing video games, because see, this is what happens, Heidi. Little gamers grow up to be big gamers.
Yep.
They don't. And I thought he was going to wake up one day in college and decide to go have fun like we did when we went to college.
Honestly,
That didn't
Melanie,
happen.
I mean, I wish we had we'll have to do another show on this, but I talk to women all the time whose husbands are playing these
Yes.
games. And there is nothing, and I know that there's men listening to this, there's nothing less sexy
Let's just say
than
it.
looking at your husband sitting on the couch playing one of those stupid games. There is nothing more unattractive.
No.
It's so
and especially
frustrating.
when you have little kids crying
You
in the
got,
background.
yeah, you got
and
little
you have
kids
all
crying
of
in the background. You got stuff that you're supposed to be doing, and people will say, "Well, it brings us, it's how he unwinds, it's how he blows off steam." I have talked to women who spend their nights. I mean, they're crying themselves to sleep because they basically are
Yes.
alone in the evenings when their husbands come home from work and they're way too. And when you said it's like alcohol addiction, it really resonates with me, because that's what an alcoholic does, right? An alcoholic comes home and opens the refrigerator and takes out a beer, and that's how he lets off steam. And it's
Yes.
interesting it's the same thing, right? It's a chemical addiction, even
it's
in
a
these
chemical
adults.
addiction, and it's really in alignment with being addicted to gambling, or like you said, alcohol, or in all honesty, for a marriage relationship, it is like an affair. Because the man, usually, sometimes it's the women, sometimes, believe it or not, there are some women, but typically it's the man, and it just draws him in, it pulls him away from his family. And this is what had happened with Adam. He had been pulled away from our family prematurely. He had detached way too early, because your kids are never supposed to detach. These detachment disorders are what is plaguing our whole entire culture today.
Yep.
And everybody's in their mental health problem because they're not attached to human beings. They're attached to their screens. But in our case, what happened with Adam, he did go, and I'm so thankful every day, and he is too. And he came back, and he did finish college. But I just have to tell you that Adam is so happy for me to share his story. A lot of people say, "Oh no, what's he doing now? Does he?"
Yeah, no, he's written. He has a letter in the beginning of your workbook. Yeah.
Yes. And he's like, "Mom, you've got to tell as many people as you can. We have to go save some kids." And so I thank him all the time for saving his little brothers, because of everything that happened. I turned around after he went into the Army 6 months later. After he came home, he was like gone, and we were just so proud of him for doing that. But I can't reiterate how much pain our family went through with this, which is why I am so passionate about educating moms and dads and now kids. We have our program that we have for kids right now, the curriculum that you have, the book that, and this is everything that we wish we had known early. Plus, I took all of my medical background, and so our organization was founded really over that time when Adam went off to the military. I was here learning. I was traveling. I was learning, just soaking up everything I could on all the research around screen addiction, and then started speaking locally. And the first thing we planned for 25 people, and we had 125 people show up.
It's an epidemic.
And it was like, okay, I have to get organized, and we have to get this out. And so I then decided to make a big change in my own house. And so at the time, the twins were around third grade, and I made a big chart, and I said, guys, and I wrote all these things down, all these life skills and things they were going to learn while they were under my roof that Adam never learned. And I said, these are all the things that you're going to do. And when you learn all these things, like the dishes and cleaning the bathroom and changing the tires and doing all the things, then you can have video games. But until you learn all this stuff, and I'll never forget, they were both in third grade. He looked at me and he just said, Mom, that is going to take me 18 years to learn all that.
Ding, 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 ding.
And I said,
winner,
yes.
chicken dinner.
That's right. And so, Heidi, we went all the way through middle school and high school. And for my daughter, she was in middle school at the time. And we said, no video games. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I failed. I totally failed the test on that one. And we said, you know what? This social media thing, this doesn't smell right. I don't think this is right.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I agree.
But it was because of everything that we went through. And so I am here to tell you and anyone and everyone that it is not worth it. The pain is so devastating. These screens, and we're not here to just jump off a cliff. We are not anti-screen. We use screens for school, and we're
on a screen right now.
We're on a screen right now. But you know what? What I learned is that certain screen uses are toxic, and certain things are okay. And our kids have never, in all the years I've been teaching ScreenStrong, no one in any of my classes has ever come to me to say that they were addicted or their kid was addicted to Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
Okay? This is not the problem.
They're not getting addicted to piano lessons.
No. Exactly. And so that's not what we're talking. We're not talking about those types of screen use. Yeah, we watch shows with our kids. We watch documentaries, whatever. But our life is very different. And the ScreenStrong lifestyle that we outline in all of our stuff is just where you want to be, because you only have a few months with your kids when you really think about it, all the way through high school. That's only 48 months of high school, right?
Come on.
You can do anything.
Yeah, it's so true. When you say the ScreenStrong lifestyle, explain that to me.
So we promote delaying and pausing the use of toxic screens, not all screens, toxic screens, which are video games, pornography, and social media, which is smartphones. It's all the same, smartphones and social media.
So would you advocate for a parent not to give a child a smartphone at all?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And if we would just follow what the tech companies, not only the tech execs, they don't give their kids smartphones, but if you just followed the cell phone company, we would never be in this problem, because you have to be 18 to sign a contract anyway. So what are we thinking? See, if we would just follow the law, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. But now we're in a mental health crisis with our teenagers because they are off on social media because it's so addictive. The persuasive design is so strong.
It's so
they
strong.
Can't manage it, and now we're all taking them to counselors and giving them drugs, and none of this makes any sense. So we recommend, based on science, based on the medical research, based on everything we know about the data today, we know that smartphones are not smart for teenagers at all.
Do you think that video games have the same effect on young adults? I'm thinking of, men, women too, but I think you're right. The propensities for men in their 20s to also have it be affecting their mental health, like young men who are struggling with depression, anxiety. Yes. Are you just like, get the heck off those games? It
is 100% related to depression, anxiety, lack of purpose. The studies that are coming out now, they're showing that these young 20-year-olds, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have purpose in their life.
Yeah.
And it's because of what they're doing every day is not real.
Yeah.
They're on these video games, and Adam will tell you that when you're on a video game, you're not in the real world.
It's true.
Yeah. And he says that there's nothing in the real world that can push that amount of dopamine in your brain. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of stuck.
So then when you're not on it, when you're not doing the video game and you're out in the real world and you're at work or you're mowing the grass or whatever it is, your brain is like, hey, where's the dopamine? This isn't working for me. And you don't get it until you get back to the gaming.
That's right. So let me explain how this happens. And we just had Anna Lemke, the author of Dopamine Nation, just on our podcast. And it was awesome because I bring all these doctors on to talk to people about, talk to our audience about all this. But what happens is when a child, and the younger this happens, so I want everybody to listen to this real quick. The younger this happens, the worse you are. And we know that 90% of all adult addictions start in the teenage years. Did you know that? 90% of all adult addictions start in the teenage years. And it's because the teenage brain, the young brain is so malleable. It's not cemented over yet. Like you and I, when we got our phones, our brain was already done baking, right? We were done. It didn't hurt our brains the same way. But for young kids all the way up to 25, because that frontal cortex is not fully connected till you're 25 years old, there's a lot of damage that is done. There are permanent changes that happen in your brain. So let me say this, for video games, usually it's boys, but girls play too. And for social media, usually the biggest problem is with girls, but boys play that too. But usually we see boys that are getting very depressed. And the reason why they're getting depressed, all right, it is the dopamine addiction reward pathway gets triggered. And because with dopamine, it doesn't matter if it comes from drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, whatever your drug of choice is, It is the same dopamine. And this is really important for parents to understand. Whether your kid is on heroin or whether they are on Call of Duty, it is dopamine that is being released. The heroin makes your own dopamine release, and the Call of Duty makes your own dopamine release, and watching porn makes your own dopamine. It is all the same dopamine. So what happens, like Dr. Anna Lemke points out so well, is when the younger you are, the harder it is. So when your brain gets used to that much dopamine over time, this thing called tolerance kicks in, and now your brain starts making less dopamine, because it's always trying to balance. Everything's always trying to balance.
So you're talking about dopamine. So I'm not a doctor. I just play one on my podcast. Sure. So can you explain to the average person like Heidi St. John, what is the role of dopamine regularly? What does it do?
It's wonderful. You would die without dopamine. So we need dopamine. Dopamine makes us, it's the feel-good chemical. It's the neurotransmitter that makes us get up in the morning and eat. It mostly makes us stay alive, because if we didn't eat, if we didn't procreate, we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't have survival of the planet. So it's very good. Dopamine is really good. In fact, for you to even get up, put your clothes on, eat, talk to people, do all those things, if you didn't have dopamine, you would have no motivation to do these things. The other important thing that dopamine does, dopamine lays down memories in the part of your brain that remembers what felt good, what tasted good, and we're going to keep doing that thing because we need to keep surviving. So it's a memory hormone, but it's also, it makes us feel good, and so we need it. And so if you can imagine in your brain, I have a little chart in the book in the yellow section. If you look in the book, there's a little chart right here. And I love this chart because it's the red zone, the green zone, and then we're down here at the bottom. We want to live in the green zone. Every day we wake up, we want to do things that make us feel good. We want to eat breakfast. We want to be around people, and we want to live in this green zone. And like it says in here, being around people, doing things, listening to music, playing music, doing crafts, all these things are in, going to your job. That's all in the green zone. But the things that are in the red zone are drugs and alcohol and video games and social media. And so when we live up there too long, what happens is you crash because you can't stay up there. Right? And so what happens to kids who are addicted, or to adults who are addicted, the real world no longer is fun. And so that's where depression comes in.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you said, I'm so fascinated by this topic because I have 7 kids of my own.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I'm telling you, my oldest daughter's in her 30s and my youngest daughter is 14, almost 14. And so I'm telling you, parents, and I know that you know this too, but my generation, when I was raising my 34-year-old, we didn't see this stuff coming. There wasn't smartphones. We didn't have access to social media. People weren't playing. We were playing Atari, for goodness sake. We were going, we were plugging quarters into video game machines, and we were playing Ms. Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and stuff like that. And nobody was getting addicted because eventually we ran out of quarters.
That is exactly right. There was a stopping point, and those games did not have the persuasive design that the games have today.
And what's concerning to me is you said something, and I wrote it down, and I want to circle back to it. You were talking about the neural pathways that are laid down in kids that develop these addictions, and you said that they inflict permanent damage.
Yes.
And so my question is, how do you recover from a damage that is permanent?
Right. Yes. And so permanent, it's just like a habit. So you know how habits are permanent. Now, the way that you get rid of a bad habit is, of course, you never get rid of it. You make new habits. You have new habits that start to become more paved, we call it, in the brain with the neuro pathways.
Like an alcoholic would never tell you they weren't an alcoholic. They would just tell you every day they choose not to drink.
That is correct. And then they replace the alcohol, the dopamine producing activity, with something else. Right? And then they start doing that thing more and more and more, and then that thing gets more paved. When a child is going through puberty, there's this thing called neuronal pruning, and the brain takes inventory. Hey, what are we using? What are we not using? Just like you would go clean out your pantry, which, of course, mine needs cleaning all the time. But, just like you go in there, okay, what are we using? What are we not using? Because the brain is constantly trying to be efficient. And around puberty is when this happens. So if your child has been playing video games like my oldest was for years and years, well, that is the area of his brain that is going to be very well connected. It's like a dirt road that turns into a highway. Now, the areas where he was doing piano and just talking face to face with people, communication skills, those weren't being used that much. So then that is harder. You know how much harder it is to learn a foreign language when you're 30 than when you're 13?
Yes, girl, I know.
Right? You see, and that's so brain science. So that's it. That's brain science.
I just know I'm 54. My brain doesn't work as good as it used to.
Well,
that's the science
correct.
that I know about my brain.
That's the science. So when I say permanent changes, it does make permanent changes. Now, it's not that we can't go back and fix it and do better things, and we have to always move forward, and we don't ever live in this regret. Just like if your child was on drugs right now, you would stop the drugs. Yes, certain things are different in his brain, for sure. But then there's so much you can do because the brain is able to be plastic, we call it. It's able to change. It's just harder. It's just harder. That's why 90% of all adult addictions start in the teenage years, because it is so much harder. And that's my message to parents. We don't have time to argue about this.
Parents are going to have to do the hard thing. And that's a lot of it. I mean, you talk about dopamine hits, and you were just saying earlier, that you didn't like being the bad cop. Like, nobody likes that. The hardest thing, I think, in many cases about being a parent is telling your child the truth and watching the look of disappointment on their face and watching them say, "Mom, you never let me do anything fun, and you don't actually care about me." Every parent that's listening to this, especially if you have teenage kids, you've all had your child say something to you that was hurtful because you made a decision that they didn't like. And I think at the end of the day, part of this is it comes down to parents. We can say, and it's true, hey, we didn't know. We didn't realize. But once you know, you have to make a change. And that's really what you're saying.
So yes, and so let's get into that, because that is the fun thing about ScreenStrong. Like, we are so fun. All right, I will just have to say, we are not a Debbie Downer kind of organization. Like, we have so much fun. And what it is, it's kind of like how you're doing something the wrong way for so long, and then it's like you start doing it the right way, and it's like, oh my gosh, who knew this would be so much easier. But let me just touch one more thing about dopamine. We have to, as parents, know that we are in charge of our kids' dopamine. We're it. They can't be in charge of their own dopamine. They're kids. Boy,
I hope everybody that's listening to this takes a moment of silence for that. Parents, she's saying you're the one who's in charge of the dopamine hits that your kids get. That's powerful.
That is correct. And until we start taking responsibility, nothing's going to change.
Come on.
Because our kids are not adults. Heidi, we are treating our kids like adults. It is wrong. And it is sad. And it is, you know what? It's abusive in a way. It's abusive to put a 13-year-old on social media. And we just didn't know what we were doing. And I didn't know. And let me just say that I have made more mistakes than anyone listening to your podcast. I have made all the mistakes. So I'm here to tell you it is not worth it. I'm here to tell you how much easier it is to
no matter how much pressure your kids, give you. I have a 13-year-old, right? And she's constantly like, "Mom, why can't I have an Instagram? Mom, why can't I be on Be Real?" Somebody told me the other day, let her do Be Real because it's only one opportunity a day. But then she lives for that one opportunity.
So Heidi, I know the answer, but let me just ask you the question, this moderation thing. Okay. Would you let your kids just watch porn for an hour every week? Or, well, at least they're not doing it for 8 hours a week. Right. They're just doing it for, it doesn't even make any sense what we're saying. If we look at ourselves in the mirror and say what we're saying to our kids, we don't make sense. Right. This doesn't make sense. And so what I did, and I lived it, and I know, because I did it all wrong, and then we changed it, and we did it all a different way. And so what I know is that your daughter will survive without social media. And my daughter survived perfectly fine without it. And you know what happened? This is the coolest thing. When we said no, we were at the point where I was over it. Okay. So
you're just like, you know what? You can give me the look. You can try to make me feel bad. Mama's not going to play. Mom doesn't want me to be on social media. Yeah, you right. Mom's going to take away my phone. Yeah, you right. Let's go.
It was like, so y'all use my story and y'all say, you know what? We have a friend. Y'all can be my friend. And you say, we have a friend whose son, dropped out of college and we're not going there.
You can be that mom for everybody.
Yeah, I can be that mom. I can be the bad guy. Please let me be the bad guy.
I love that. I love that.
Because what happened to us is our daughter was perfectly fine. You know what? She wasn't anxious. She wasn't stressed. She never felt left out, Heidi, because guess what? She never knew. She never knew she was left out. And so we know at the age of 15, the rejection pain is felt the strongest than it will ever be felt in a female's life.
What age?
Of 15. 15. Rejection pain is felt the strongest. And what I mean by that, you and I, we can get rejected. We go out to dinner and somebody want to go to the bathroom with us. And we're like, oh, why didn't she want to walk with me to do, females get rejected. And that's kind of a thing we have to deal with a lot. But at the age of 15, that pain is stronger than it will ever be in your life.
And your kids are on social media getting rejected day after day after day.
The depth of the pain that they feel drives them to self-harm. It drives them to suicide. All the things out there. And it's not necessary. And so when we said no to Melissa, she was like, oh, great. That's great. I won't have any friends. You know what? She had so many friends. And guess what? She did. Guess what she did? She ended up spending 4 hours at the gym every day. She got a full D1 scholarship on a gymnastics team at a college, at a big university. I'm like, I wonder if that would have happened if she had spent all her 4 hours on TikTok instead. I know the answer to that. So they pour themselves into other things. And let me tell you about the boys. They didn't have a smartphone all the way through high school. They just graduated a year ago.
Did you give them a dumb phone? You did, right?
Yeah, they had a Gav phone that we recommended.
Like a flip phone or a Gav phone?
Yeah, it's like a flip phone, but not till they were 15. And the reason why is because I didn't want them texting stupid pictures. And so I was that mom, and listen to what happened. This is just crazy. What happened to my boys through middle school and high school? So what's going to happen to you two, because I do this with thousands of parents every year. We go through with parents. And so what happens is there's just a minute. It's a blip on the radar. It's just a minute where your kids are mad at you.
Right.
And then they get over it. Like they get over it.
Come on, the parents want the dopamine hit too. The parents are like, you're wrecking my dopamine right now. My kid doesn't like me. But what you're saying is you guys will get over it. You'll get over it. Your kids will get over it. You'll get over it.
All about your attitude. It's all about your attitude. So mom, you put a big smile on your face and you go in there today or tomorrow and you say, guess what, guys? We're done. We made a mistake. We're not doing this anymore.
I love that. We made a mistake. Nothing wrong with saying that. I love it.
So, and Heidi, you got to parent like a coach. And this is what I did differently with my younger kids. I'm like, my husband and I, we're the coach now. We took that emotional parenting hat flat out of our house. Like it doesn't, I didn't even say we just took it off our head.
You're encouraging me because I'm on number 7. I gotta tell you,
you're tired.
Melanie, I'm getting tired. I am.
Right, we need to talk.
I am getting tired. My kid came upstairs yesterday. It was like 8:30 at night, and she's like, "Can I just watch a half hour of my show?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want you watching half an hour." She's like, "Mom, I've done my homework." And finally, after 25 minutes, I looked at my husband. I'm like, okay, I've reached the point where I just want to give my 2-year-old the Sharpie and say, color on whatever you want.
Yeah, color
just
the walls.
Do it. No. Do it, and I'll paint them over later. Because that's what happens. People get tired.
Yeah. They get tired, but you know what? You can't get tired because this is a battle. And so
I need to put you on speed dial, girl.
Heidi, call me anytime. I will get you. First of all, 20 minutes of an argument. Oh, no, ma'am. No. They start arguing about something. You give them the toilet brush. They have to go start cleaning bathrooms. I
just need this little injection back into my mothering. Yes. I feel so much better right now.
You have all the permission in the world. Okay, think about this, Heidi. The next time that happens, think about a big NFL team, right? You're the coach, and you're in a losing season. Do you think that a coach is going to take that kind of, excuses from his team?
No.
Are you kidding me? Oh, coach, by the way, I don't want to run my laps today. Oh, no. You have to parent like a coach.
Okay, good.
You put your coach's hat on. You get a new game plan, and you got to change the game plan.
I can hear the collective, all the moms are stopping what they're doing right now, and they're focused on what you're saying because they're like, yes. We can do this. We can do this, guys. You go into your call yourself a family meeting and say, kids, I love it. Smile on your face. We made a mistake. We're turning the ship around. The ship is turning today. I love that.
That's right. And Heidi, do not get on your kids' roller coasters because they're all on a roller coaster. They're teenagers. And if you understood about the teenage brain, and this is why I'm so passionate about educating parents about just a few things. You don't have to go back to medical school, but there are a couple things you need to know that teenage brain is on a roller coaster, and you just need to claim it and understand it.
You don't need to go on with them.
No, ma'am. And whenever you start arguing with them about their phone,
you're on the ride.
Whatever, you're getting on the ride, and they're laughing at you. I mean, honestly, they're like, "Oh, look at mom. She's on the roller coaster with me."
Yeah,
this
mom's
is not
crying now.
No, and then the other thing is,
how do you get off the roller coaster? How do you not get on it?
You just get you understand what that roller coaster is and what it looks like, you have to understand a few things about brain development, honestly. That helps you so much, because when we started understanding this is so funny. We have a little video in our workshops that we do, and it explains the frontal cortex. It explains the teenage brain and how...
Can you just move here?
I'll move in for a month and I'll fix everything.
Like you'd be like the new nanny. Remember the nanny show? You could be like the screen nanny.
But I can tell you how to do it. It's really easy. You don't have to have me out there. But the back of your brain develops first, the movement center. That's why your toddlers are running all around. And then when you're a teenager, your middle brain develops, which I don't know why, because that's the accelerator, right?
This is God trying to make you into His image. This is the Lord just saying,
it's like,
this is
dear
your
God,
challenge.
Why did we? Because He invented the accelerator before the brakes. The brakes are right here,
right in the
frontal
front.
cortex. Yeah, and so when my daughter was in, she was in middle school, and we're learning all this together, and I did the course with her, and I told her about the brain. And honestly, Heidi, what happened? We never argued about stuff again. I'm not kidding, because we would just say, Melissa, you need to borrow my frontal cortex. Remember, yours isn't working. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yours isn't working.
And then it was funny. And it was like, oh, we felt so much better. And so with the boys, let me tell you about the boys. Their frontal cortex doesn't develop till like they're 40 or something. I don't know. It's 25, but it's longer for boys. And so they grew up coming all the way through middle school and high school. Oh, Mom, you're so mean, whatever. They did that for a few minutes. And I'm like, okay, fine. That's fine. I'm the mean mom. That's great.
I'm the mean mom. Get over it.
It just never bothered me. And so they were doing, get this, I was that mom, okay? I'm just going to confess. I was the mom that made my kids play violin. I know, it's like crazy town. And, but I had done the Adam thing, and Adam quit everything. Yeah. So when they were in middle school and they wanted to quit, because Heidi, we got to do a whole thing about how to get your kids not to quit things, because this is what everybody wants to quit, especially in middle school. It's like that mile 19 in the marathon when you quit, right?
Listen, everybody, this is a homeschool public service announcement. A lot of moms right now are just like, I want to quit. I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, no, girl, you got to stay in there. You got to stay in there. I mean, I've been cheerleading homeschool moms for 25 years. Yes. And now I'm in the closing.
You're on the final stretch.
I'm in the final stretch. My number 7 in the final stretch. She's in high school this year. And I'll tell you what, I said to an audience in Charlotte last weekend, I was like, listen, you guys, I learned something. Anyone can start strong. It is hard to finish strong.
That's right.
It is hard to finish strong.
And
we need each other. We need other moms to say, hey, stay in there. Stay in there. Don't give up. Don't give up, because it'll be worth it.
And you need to do this for your kids. And so in 8th grade, the twins were in 8th grade, and we were sitting at the dinner table one night, which, by the way, the dinner time is the most sacred thing that you will have to fight for, as you know. Be sure you do that. Teenagers need this desperately. And so we were at the dinner table, and all of a sudden, because they'd been, kind of arguing all along the way, a little bit about violin here and there, and about piano, because I made them take piano, because if you learn how to read music on violin, then you can do piano, like that's a no-brainer. So in 8th grade, Andrew looks at me and he says, Mom, I've been meaning to tell you that, we used to get made fun of all the time, for not having a phone, and we had to take violin lesson. Like, we were the weird people. But then this was early in the 8th grade year, and he said, but I've just been meaning to tell you that when you hit 8th grade, the girls think it's kind of cool that you play the violin. And I'm like, I got your back. I got your back, honey. You just, eyes on me. I got your back.
Eyes on me.
Eyes on me. And so let me tell you the funniest thing. When they graduated from college, Evan just produced, a little plug for Evan Hempe, 2 albums, his second album on Spotify. All right.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Piano music that is like so great. And then Andrew is in the orchestra in his college. I'm like, oh, who's making you go to violin now? No one. He's.
Are you
doing
like high-fiving yourself? Right?
I am. I'm
Melanie's
like,
high five.
It's my little secret thing I'll just share with you today. That I'm like, guys, let me tell you, it works. Okay, so I already ran this race. I'm telling you what's on the path. I'm telling you what potholes to avoid. And I'm telling you the shortcut. So the shortcut is, don't start with the video games. If you've got them, you know what? You can go get rid of those video games right now. I have plenty of dads that put them in their trunk, and they take them to their office and they dump them in the dump. No kidding. The games need to go.
Did you see the video? I bet you did. It went viral, and it was this guy, and he's out in the field with his son, who looks to be 19 or 20 years old. This is not a little boy. And he's like, Dad. And the guy has taken all of his son's video games and dumped them into a pile in the middle of the lawn. And he's like, no. Gosh. And his dad was like, listen, I told you got to mow the grass today. There's stuff you got to do. And the kid was like, no. He literally starts crying. And the kid's like, don't do it. And the dad takes his riding lawnmower and ran over the video games.
Yes.
It was epic. Okay. But I was like, here's a guy who's just like, nope. We're dead.
He's had it. And so this is the thing today. Everybody listening, we're not going to get to that point, okay? I thought you were going to say, I saw the one where the guy took a shotgun and shot the laptop, because
I saw that too. Yeah, but I think we're seeing this stuff because it is so prevalent. And I guarantee you this podcast can be downloaded tens of thousands of times. I guarantee you that 80% of the people that listen to this, they either are going through this right now or they know someone who is. That's how important this is.
That's right. And so let me quickly tell you a couple things about the myths. First of all, you're going to say that my kid won't have any friend. That is not true. Both of my boys were in student government in high school. They knew all the kids in the high school. One was student senior class president, and the other was student body president. What the heck? No social media. No smartphones. You know what, Heidi? They got to know people. They knew people's names.
So weird.
I know, right?
So weird.
And the other thing that we did that I want to encourage everyone, when we got rid of all this stuff, we started making every Friday night was the fun night at our house. And Heidi, after going through everything we went through with our oldest son, and we had him in some counseling, we did all that, which by the way is a bad idea. I don't recommend taking your kids to counseling for screen addiction because counselors don't even know what they're thinking about it. They don't even know. You know what they did with Adam? They played video games with him to bond with him. I'm like, oh my gosh. Looking back, that was the worst thing. So all the money that we spent there, you know what, with the boys, I'm like, guys, I don't care what you buy. We'll buy a trampoline. What else do you want? You want a fire pit? We'll buy a fire pit. What else? It was like you invest in those in our family. Things.
Yeah.
And so every Friday night to this day, and they're in college now, and they come home, and it still happens. Their friends all come over here, and you know what I invest in? Food. I was just going to say
pizza.
Yes, that's what we do, and I'm so happy to do it, and I absolutely love it. Kids want to be around kids. They want to hang out with each other. Parents, what are we thinking? Giving our kids phones. What a bad idea. What a bad idea. We want them to be in our house with their friends in the backyard, having a great time. Those are the memories that they're going to make. They will never remember except to be mad at you. Like Adam says, Mom, I had a terrible childhood. Well, that's a terrible thing you want to hear from your son, right?
I've had kids say things like that to me in a moment of anger.
Because he did, because we don't have any memories. So what is your kid right now?
Listen, girl, my kids didn't have a bad childhood, and occasionally they're like, I'm just so sad that I'm your child. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, those are other problems.
Here's the toilet brusher. I'll see you in an hour.
Go clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
So that works. That works, by the way. So the other thing is that parents are feeling so scared. Why are we scared of our kids? Stop it. Stop being so scared. You're the coach. They're the team. You got your roles all reversed. And you know what? They're dying for you to be their coach. They're dying for you to be their leader. They don't care if you're a little weird and different. That's okay. Because that's what teams do. They have an identity. And I recommend that everybody go out and make T-shirts for your team, which is your family. And you are the Hempe team. And this is how we do things. And you know what? Yeah, other teams may do things differently, and that's okay. But like when my daughter was going through gymnastics, the coach never wanted her to go to one of those camps because she said, I don't want her to have another coach. I want to be her coach. And think about that.
So good.
We don't want social media coaching our kids. We don't want video games coaching our kids. And we need to be big enough and bold enough to say no and quit trying to moderate it. This is the thing I get from families all the time. Well, how about just a little bit on the week? No. And how about, well, if they do their homework, then they get to do this as a reward. No. If you don't value video games and the smut on social media, then don't use that for rewards. Please don't do that. How confusing is this for our kids?
You're like America's technology coach for parents.
Yes. And we're rewarding them with the very thing we hate. What does this tell our kids? They're going to wake up one day when they're 20, when their frontal cortex starts to kind of wake up and thaw out, and they're going to say, what did you do? Why did you do that to me?
Talk to the parent who says, but you don't understand. This gaming has really ignited this passion in my child.
Oh,
he wants to go and
Yes.
technology. He's
Right.
going to be a millionaire. He's going to invent the next game. This is my son's passion. I can't take it away from him.
Yes, okay, this is what the answer is to that. No company, and I talk to many people who work in that industry, they do not want gamers. They want kids like my kids who played violin.
They want engineers.
They want engineers, and they want people who can speak in front of people, and they want to know. They want kids to come into their organizations who know how to work on a team, who don't have to take credit for everything. Most of the kids who spend too much time on video games don't have any of the people skills that they need to work. Learning how to do a video game is the easiest thing in the world. What's hard is learning grit and work ethic. That's what's hard. It is not hard to play Fortnite every night for 5 hours. That is not hard. And they do not need that. Now, let me ask you this. If you were going to go work for a candy company like Mars Bars or Skittles, how about Skittles? I like Skittles. If you're going to work for Skittles, do they need you to eat a bag of Skittles every day for 16,000 hours of your childhood? No. You'll
Throw
get
yourself
sick.
into a diabetic coma.
No, and they will not hire addicted kids. So get that out of your head right now. The best thing you can do for your would-be gamer designer kid is to get him in the backyard and get him to figure out how a frog works, like real life, because they can't draw and do art if they don't understand real life. So that's a big thing. The other thing is we have to teach them all the bad things, while they're under our roof. And this is not true either. You can teach them about social media. You can teach them about even pornography without showing them pornography.
Right.
You can teach them all about social media. They don't have to have it in order to do it. You teach them about alcohol, Heidi, and we don't give them wine every night for dinner.
Right.
But my boys grew up knowing about alcohol. When they're old enough to drink, they'll drink whatever. I made a promise to myself I would never buy a smartphone for a child. I don't care if they're 30 years old. I'm done.
I love that you're saying that. And I think so often what has happened, and this happened in our house certainly, your phone gets old or whatever, you want the newest, latest, greatest. And so the parents hand the phone to their child. They didn't go to the store and buy them a $400 phone. Yeah. They handed them the phone, and in so doing, they opened up the door to all kinds of issues. And I love that you're giving parents permission to actually parent their kids and say, hey, you know what? We're not doing that. I love that you said, and I just wrote it down. I think we need to keep telling parents, because there's a lot of parents who are in the middle of this right now. It's okay to go to your kids and say, I made a mistake. Yeah. I made a mistake. And they're going to cry and they're going to say, I can't believe you're doing this. It's the worst thing ever. I can't believe it. And they're going to try to make you feel like garbage. But
you're just going to call me and you're going to be fine. And you're going to find another parent. Go get another mom or two to do this with you. Y'all will be fine. Let me tell you. And until you tell your child this, until science proves to me that this is a good thing for you, we're not doing it. We're not. Why would I give you poison for dinner? Like, I'm not doing it. And then, you know what? You got to have a sense of humor in your life, and you can kind of make fun of the thing sometime. And your kids need to laugh more with you, and you need to have fun as a family. And this is the very difference between Adam's childhood and the younger kids in my house. We have so much fun with our younger kids. They're going to remember their childhood was really fun. Adam remembers it being that we argued all the time, right? Or that he was sad and depressed and lonely. And do you know, in 8th grade, Adam put on his Christmas list antidepressants. I'm like, he was playing games so much, he was getting depressed. It's a huge depressive thing. They don't know. They get caught in the trap. They're in the vortex. We have to get them out.
All they know is the game makes them feel good. They don't realize that the reason they feel bad is because of the game. Yeah.
And then if your argument is going to be, well, that's where they socialize. No, ma'am. That's like saying, okay, well, my son goes to the strip club every day to meet his friends. Well, that's a really bad idea. You've got to get his friends over to your house on a regular basis. Being with human beings is your goal as a coach right now, with little kids, big kids, even when they're 18 years old. They still need to be around human beings. They don't need to get caught in their screen. Good. But you know what, Heidi, you got to get educated.
There's a couple things I want to do as we wrap up this day. I want you. There are 3 things that you said parents can do right now, and I want to hit on those 3 things. And I also, and we maybe touched on them already, but let's go back and recap. And then also, I want to talk about your curriculum, because I would love to see this in the hands of every parent out there. And I think what you've done is so powerful. You're really, helping parents understand what's behind this addiction.
Right.
You're giving them the power to take control and be the parent in their house again. Hello. So difficult. Talking about how to detox your kids, learning how their brain works. God has given parents responsibility in the lives of their children, and we got to step up to the plate. So let's talk about 3 things parents can do right now, and then I want to talk about the curriculum.
The first thing, you've got to get educated, because let me tell you, without the education is the fuel that you need. Because if without education, without knowing your why, then you're not going to be strong. You can't be strong with your kids, because like we know certain things that are, smoking is bad for our kids. We know our why. We know it really clearly. So we don't allow our kids to smoke, right? That's just, so you've got to know your why. And we have our parent course, and we have all kinds of stuff on our site to teach you all about the why. And of course, like you just said, the kid course is to teach the kids about the why. The second thing is you do have to parent like a coach. Step out of this thing where you're going to be the emotional parent. You put on your logical coaching hat. You look, and this was really good to do with
for the
spouses.
moms. Try to be more like a man.
Yeah,
I think men can do that a lot easier.
Oh, men love this.
I know the women are just like, I know, because I've raised 5 daughters. You know how many roller coasters those girls have taken me on over the years.
You're throwing up, I'm sure, right?
Up, down. I remember. Well, it was my husband one time who said, "You're letting them drag you into this emotional argument. Why are you doing that? You just say, oh, hey, no, and then walk away." And I'm like, but they think you're mean. And he goes, I don't care.
Yeah,
that's his response. Don't care. And I had to learn how to do that.
Coaches don't care. And so, Heidi, I have to tell you this really quick. In our presentations, we had to 6-7 years ago put this in our presentation because it was so common. We call it the middle school girl phone speech, and this is where she does a PowerPoint presentation and tells her whole family and her mom, and gets mom in tears over why all the 10 reasons why she needs a phone. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the oldest trick in the book, right? That's the oldest trick. So you've got to look past these blind spots that we have as moms. I have a lot written on this, and we can certainly talk about that. But so you got to change you got to quit treating your kids like they are adults. They are not adults. They are not ready for any of this. Half of us are not even ready for it. For all the stuff on social media. And the third thing that you've got to do is find your community, because you can't do this by yourself. Change doesn't happen in isolation.
Yes.
Change happens in community. And so what I'm talking about, even right now today, call a friend. But you know what? It may not be your best friend. It probably won't be your sister, because for some reason in life, I don't know what it is, prophet in your own town syndrome.
Right. It's true.
You've got to go find someone who, maybe put a little email out. A lot of our moms do this. They put an email out to their friend group or to their school or to their class or their homeschool co-op, and they say, hey guys, I'm ready to go ScreenStrong. Is anybody with me? And then you get 5 of you together, you get our course, and you have a book club. And you start learning. And
okay, so how do you do that? Okay, so you just said get 5 people together, get your course, create a book club, and how soon is too soon for parents to do this?
Oh, you could start that by tonight.
Come on, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, and then you know what happens?
Wow, so many parents could avoid. And it truly is a heartache for parents who did not see this coming. You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And now that we know, we got to do better.
But now you know, and you got to do better, and you got to get educated, you got to get equipped. And Heidi, let me tell you this one thing, that the word no is the most beautiful word in the human language.
Come on.
It is. Think about it.
Let's practice together. No. No.
No. And
Mom,
then
Mom, I need my phone. Give it to me. No.
And then you say, let's go make some cupcakes.
There
instead.
we go.
You've got to fill it. You've got to fill. You cannot expect your kids. You can't go take their phone away or take their video game away and then think they're going to know what to do. They had to be retrained because they don't even know what to do. They don't have any idea. And so you have to, for a while. It doesn't last for long. And this is cookie cutter. This is what happens all the time. They're like, Melanie, I thought I was going to play Monopoly for 5 times a day for the whole year. Please, I hate Monopoly. I'm like, oh no.
Please, I hate Monopoly. Don't make me do it again.
You're going to have to play Monopoly, Mom, and you're going to have to do it for a few weeks, maybe, or a few days. But we got our kids in this mess. We can get them out.
Come on.
We're going to have to do a little bit of the work. You might have to go get a trampoline. I don't know, whatever it is. We have families that sell all their equipment. They go to Dick's Sporting Goods and they buy whatever their kids want. You have to do that part.
Make
You're
an investment.
Coach,
make an investment.
You have to fix it. And you know what? And there's not any amount of money that is too much to spend. I'll be honest with you when it comes to this, because you are making lifelong changes, decisions, investments in your kids, and you're going to have so much more fun with them. And let me promise this. I promise you that they won't wake up every day for the next, 6 years at your house and complain. They will not, because you're going to show them a different way. And you're going to show them how much fun it is to learn how to do all the things that you did when you were a kid. And you're just going to have more fun together. Screens are going to be lame. Screens are like lame when it comes to actually getting mom out on the trampoline or having dad, well, I don't do that anymore, but
some of us may not be getting on a trampoline, but
that's okay. But y'all can camp in the backyard. You can do that tonight. You can do that this weekend.
Yeah.
Say, hey, we're getting rid of our screens, and this is what we're going to do instead.
So good. It's so
works.
good. And I think, just the permission that you're giving parents to parent their kids again is so important. We see attacks on parental rights happening. We've got, parents who have decided to outsource basically the entire childhood to a school system or to a pastor or to somebody else. And God gives these children to us. And I love that you're reminding parents, actually, you're in charge. So be in charge. Be a coach. And don't let your kids take you on an emotional roller coaster.
No.
I love that. Where can people find you online? Where can they get ScreenStrong?
Just we're ScreenStrong.org, and you can go there and find everything. We have tons of free resources on there. And we have a podcast every week called Be ScreenStrong, and I bring on experts. And then we have this year, a Substack. So if you're not familiar with that, that's a weekly Substack. You need to subscribe. It's Be ScreenStrong, and every week you'll get encouragement. But this is the cool thing we have, Heidi. We have a Connect group on our website. It is not social media, but it's a forum where you come in and you ask questions. And I'm telling you, within minutes, you will get help from other families. If you're doing a detox, we have a free 7-day detox. We have a 30-day detox that we have in our Connect Plus, which is our subscription group. So we have one size for everybody, whatever you need. But we can help you detox your kids. We've done this for almost a decade. It works. It works. And it is so much fun. Please don't be discouraged. If you're listening today, I just want to encourage you, just like Heidi, just like you just did, that it is worth it. The little moment of a glitch that you'll have in your radar, it's worth it. It's no big deal. What is a big deal is if you don't do something now. You have to do something now. And even if your kid, even if it's not that bad, and even if she just has a smartphone, but she's not on TikTok yet, let me tell you, she doesn't need the smartphone. She doesn't need the temptation. We are doing a huge disservice to our kids. I watch it every day. I see what happens with all these little bits of stuff that start, and then all of a sudden, 3 years later, now we have a big disaster on our hands. It is not worth it. And the other thing is that you're teaching your kids is to be bold and to have grit, to stand out from the crowd. And don't we want that? Isn't that what we want? Don't we want our kids to become leaders? The way they become leaders, Heidi, is not by being followers. They need to stand out and be different. And not be different just for the sake of being different, but being different for a cause and for something that they believe in. And so this is what happens now when my kids are a little bit older. They are leaders. They are able to get on a stage at a homeschool convention and speak to, 5,000 people. Like, they're leaders. They understand what it means to be different. You do not want your kid to be just like everybody else. And that applies to a lot of other things in life, not just screens. So you can do it. I just want to encourage you. You can do it. We've got your back. And you've got your kids back, and we will teach you and we will help you along the way. We're not going anywhere, and we're here to help you all along.
On the way.
We have it. And let me tell you, this book, the new book that we have, this is like a graphic novel. So, and when I mean that I get to be the bad guy, this is how you get this, and you show it to your kids and say, well, let's see what the science says. And then you read all about it, and oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, right? Because it's the truth. And the truth is just a good thing. And so you're going to take all that pressure off of yourself, and you're going to put it here, and you're going to just talk to your kids and language they can understand and say, we don't want to mess up your brains. We just learned all this data is coming in. We just learned all this. And so let's go ride our bikes. Let's
Boy,
go have a
there's
family
so
bike ride.
many things happening now that parents are starting to wake up to, whether it's, in the medical community, where there's so many conversations now around vaccines, so many conversations now around food dyes and what's in our food. Now we're hearing all the things that are coming at our kids via the internet and social media and gaming and all these things. And I think God is raising up a generation of parents and adults really to start blowing the horn on this stuff and sounding the alarm and saying, hey, we got to wake up before we lose another generation of kids. And you really are at the front of this. Melanie Hempe, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's just been a delight to have you. Let's talk again.
Thanks. Yes. Thank you so much.
For more information on my guest today, you guys can hop on over to the show notes. I'll link back to ScreenStrong. I hope that every single one of you will take advantage of this. Be the parent. You guys can do this. Practice that little word, no. You guys got this. Have some fun with your kids today. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.